Hi STEAM, my name is Rohana. I'm here as Rum Dancer, and I'm here to talk to you today about sigils. And basically the reason for that originally was because I teach classes. I teach paganism, occult practices, hermetics, tarot, astrology, those kinds of things. And I was already I was actually planning a lesson plan with my students because around this time of year, we generally do something like those. If you're not familiar, a sigil is a symbol that represents something else. Back in the day, it used to be things like angels or demons, or you'd see like the really cool like Seal of Solomon and have all this cool stuff, or even the Necronomicon has its own famous sigil. But a lot of times, modern pagan practices, we pretty much use them to invoke something that we want to have either in our life or something that we want to push out into the world. And so, like for ourselves, it could be something like financial security, it could be clarity, it could be peace, it could be harmony. Harmony, I prefer a little bit over peace. Peace is a little broad. Maybe liberty would be a better one. I've thought about it, but it really depends on the person, how you visualize and how you personify what exactly it is that you want to have in your life. And so you can think of simple sigils are things like the dollar sign, which would be for, finances or money, the heart for relationship or love, and those kinds of things. Those are really simple, but they have a very broad meaning to them. And since they do, sometimes they don't lack, or they do lack the power that you want to have behind them. So a personal sigil, especially when you're starting out in your practices, is always usually a good thing to have. I usually start classes with first year students. We almost always do our, bring new students in the beginning of the year, like around Ostara. So by the time that they're getting here, they're ready for that. They're ready. They understand what their words mean. They understand the elements a little bit. We've got them up here. We're going to go over them in a little while. And the thing with it is by this time, we're already at a point that we want to tell them, okay, now it's time to start taking personal responsibility. I remember when I first did these, I just so happened my ex-husband was way older than I was, and it was the 90s. And with my dark hair and stuff, I had it like all like no hair, right? And I kind of looked like the chick from The Craft. So I definitely got like quartered, and he's like, oh, you're a witchy kind of girl. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I was really into Nine Inch Nails and goth rock. And I just was like, okay, sure, whatever, dude. And I went to a few events and I loved it. I was raised Southern Baptist, and it just was definitely not Baptist, but I like the ceremony. So I did high magic, and I started out pretty young. So I've been doing this like 18 and a half years, and full-time as a tarot reader, and practicing and teaching, and everything that comes with a priest's role, I generally do. And so I've been doing this for a really long time. I have my sigils from when I first started. And a lot of the times when I go back and I go, okay, it's time to go back to the basics. Because, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. Like, you always need to know how to do that. And so I think that it's one of the more important lessons when you're just starting to, you're just starting to learn and you're starting to get familiar. Now, the reason why I'm posting this on here is because I started posting on here and you guys are awesome. And it helps me with a lot of things that I'm actually working on with my own sigil right now. And I'm a freelancer by trade. And so I was like, I have to actually do the recordings of this. Why don't I just try it out for Steam? So, hi, we're gonna try this out together. Now, I have the stuff about me done. Like I said, I'm just trying it out. So I'm using my phone, and I'll check the audio later, and I'm recording up here, and I realize right now it shows me that it's flipped. And I do things generally old school no matter what. Like even though I'm a writer by trade, I can type like 120 words a minute. I will still do this to almost every single assignment. This is like that. And if I'm doing magical stuff, because one of your first principles of magic is, you start with, like when you're starting with Malkuth,